today's recipe, you can eat it as a breakfast, you can make a lunch out of it or a dinner out of it. It's a very quick, simple and easy recipe. A combination of two things, a paratha and the quintessential breakfast, anda. I'm making egg paratha. Let's begin. Let's begin with the recipe for the dough. Now this is a very typical paratha or a roti dough. Of course, by all means you can also use a leftover dough, which could be atta, maida, anything. Let's add in some salt. Now you can very well flavor the dough with carom seeds, which are ajwain or jeera, cumin seeds, maybe a little chili powder, anything that you think will personalize your dough and flavor. Please go ahead with it. I like it nice and plain, so I'm sticking to this. You can also add in some dhania powder or some crushed dhania seeds. That would also go very well. Let's make a nice pliable dough with water. Just ensure that all the water is not added at the same time, because you do not want to mess up the dough recipe. Of course, if you're used to making this, you know what I'm talking exactly. But if you are doing this for the first time, add little at a time and ensure that the dough is nice and soft. The dough has become nice and soft. Again, the amount of water that would go in this recipe would vary from 1/3 cup to 1/4 cup for 1 cup of atta. I'm just adding like a tablespoon of vegetable oil, and that will make this dough nice and elastic. It's important to add oil towards the end and not towards the beginning, because again, you're not looking at a short crust like generally how we make for biscuits or cookies. You're making a very typical roti paratha dough. Let's bring all of this together. That's how the dough should look. Let it rest for somewhere around 15 minutes so that the gluten kind of develops in the dough, and then we move forward. While the dough is resting, let us quickly make an egg mix. Now this is going to be a raw mix. We're not going to cook this. We're of course going to cook this later. I'm adding in some coriander leaves. To this, I'm going to add in chopped tomatoes. Again, like I said earlier, you can personalize this dish completely. You can bring in some Mexican flavors, you can bring in some Italian flavors, just add in some oregano, chili flakes, salt, pepper. That makes it very close to replicating an Italian pizza. You can of course add in some chili sauce of different kinds. Personalize it basically. Let's add in some salt. What I've added so far is coriander, chilies, red onions, tomatoes and salt. Very simple. Let's mix all of this together. And this is your absolute basic egg omelette mixture, like a masala omelette that you would eat in restaurants and hotels for breakfast, or even at home for that matter. Now again, to this you can also add in some chopped spinach, you can add in some chopped mushrooms, cheese if you like. Make it personal. Let's keep this aside. The dough has rested wonderfully well. If you see, it's become a little more pliable, a little softer, and that's what we are looking at. Let's divide this into orange sized balls. So you can divide this either into 2 or 3 depending on the size that you're looking at. And let's dab this in a little bit of wheat flour. Now, I get asked a lot of these questions about what refined flour is. Now, refined flour is maida and wheat flour is whole wheat flour or gehu ka atta. So remember that in this recipe, I have used gehu ka atta. I've rolled it to the size of the board. Now, if you see the thickness, it is roughly like say a millimeter, and that's just about perfect. We just going to add in a little bit more of the flour, and to this I'm going to add in a teaspoon of oil. Now this is a very important step, do not miss this, because this is what will help in opening up the flake. Let's rub this nicely and evenly. Ensure that it goes right up to the sides. And the next step is to fold this half, press it and fold it into a quarter. That's done and ready. Let me lift this and show you. See, that's how the pockets would now look. The next step is to dredge a little bit of flour again, because we're going to roll this like a chapati, like a paratha literally, if I may say so. Now there are 2-3 ways of rolling this. You can either form it into a triangle, or you can roll it from here and here and make it into a round. That's a complete personal choice. That's not going to change the taste of the recipe, but of course the appearance completely changes. I'm keeping it, or I'm rather retaining the triangle, for which I'm pulling it from here and then pushing it away from me, so that this kind of opens up like so. Now just a little more on this side and this side. A little more flour, because you don't want this to tear, or you don't want this to kind of rupture, because you're going to create a pocket right here. It's going to open up. Be gentle towards the edges and the ends, but also ensure that it becomes even. It shouldn't be like a stodgy dough on one side and thin on the other side, because you want it to be nice and even. With this, your paratha is literally rolled and ready. Now that's how it looks at this stage. You'll wonder, where's the egg? The egg will come in a little while. Let's cook this. Let this open up lightly. Because of the oil and the flour, this entire pocket is going to open up, and that's where we're going to fill it. But we're going to fill it on the tawa itself. Let's move on to the tawa. The tawa has heated up. Let's transfer this on a tawa. And we need to cook this for somewhere around 30 to 40 seconds on a low to medium flame. You'll start seeing a little bubbles popping in here and there, so we'll wait for that. Once you start seeing these bubbles that are kind of rising and popping, we gently flip this on the other side. Allow this to cook for just like 10 seconds on the bottom, and we add in a teaspoon of oil. Remember, this is a paratha. You can of course make this in ghee or butter. That's a complete personal choice. On the other side, I'm not adding anything, because I have 1 teaspoon on the other side. So I'm just going to manage in that to begin with. Again, it's going to be a little loaded on fat, because again, the egg needs to be cooked. I'll soon show you how. You just press it so that it cooks on all the sides. And if you see, this pocket has opened up wonderfully well, and that's where the egg mixture is going to go. I'm going to open the pocket and add in a ladle of this mixture and try to push it right within. Let's add in another pocket full. It's going to flow out, but that's completely fine. We can push it in again later. Just lightly rest this on top of it and allow this to cook on low flame till it kind of puffs up lightly. The egg starts cooking. Once it begins to cook, we'll push in the egg that is kind of flown out. We'll push it back within so that it envelopes. Of course, a little will flow here, a little will settle, but that's completely fine. That's the magic and beauty of making something artisanal, making something at home, something which is made with love, literally. I'm going to lift this up and envelope it like this. Just push it back within and cover it. Press it. Do not press it too hard, because you don't want the other bit to start flowing out. But what's important is that the egg should go right till the center and to the corners, which is very important. Now, the idea of this recipe is to cook it on low so that it just kind of puffs up, swells up, and that's what we're looking at. If you hasten this process, then the egg will start leaching out from the sides, and it keeps getting complex and complex, so remember that. Once you see that the color kind of changes, becomes a little lighter, I'm going to add in a teaspoon more of oil. Smear it around. By this time, the bottom would have become nice, crisp and golden brown. Let's give this a flip. It should be nice, crisp, golden brown like this. This for you, ladies and gentlemen, is egg paratha or anda paratha, and this goes amazingly well with tomato ketchup. Well, that's one of my favorite combinations with this, but otherwise this by itself is also magical. Let me cut this and show you how the omelette is looking. Well, stuffed beautifully well, sandwiched. When I say the recipe is quick, simple and easy, I absolutely mean it. This was anda paratha for you or egg paratha for you, and like I said, you can personalize it. You can give it a Mexican flavor, an Italian flavor, a Chinese flavor, a Japanese flavor, or make it absolutely Indian and desi.
None of my trips to Bangalore are complete without a sumptuous breakfast in one of the breakfast parlors. Well, today on that note, I would like to show you one of my personal favorites, and that is a Mysore Dosa. Where for any dosa, or rather a classic dosa, whether it's a sada dosa, a ghee dosa, a Mysore dosa or a masala dosa, a standard batter needs to be made, which looks like this. Well, this batter needs to be fermented overnight, and next morning, we of course need to start making a dosa. How do you make that? The first step is to get the ratio and proportion right. Well, we need to begin with South Indian rice or boiled rice or okra rice, as we all know. We need to wash this well at least 3 times, soak this for a minimum of 3 hours. While soaking this, we also need to soak another few set of ingredients. The first one is Urad Dal. Well, this one is a polished and de-skinned dal. Along with this, we also need a tablespoon of basmati rice, and along with this, just a little bit of chana dal. For some additional flavor to this recipe, I personally prefer adding just a few grains of fenugreek seeds. All this needs to be soaked well for a minimum of 3 to 4 hours. Then it needs to be ground into a nice and smooth paste. Well, the urad dal needs to be ground into a smooth paste, and the rice needs to be kept a touch coarse. That's as simple as it is. Just as an additional and my personal favorite steps, I personally prefer adding in 2 ingredients. The first one is poha or puffed rice, and the other one is rice flour. The addition of this makes the dosa nice and crisp, so remember that. The next morning, when you of course check the batter, it looks like this, and it's quite doubled in volume. Time to add in some salt. This needs to be whipped well and kept aside. This is whipped and ready. This goes aside. And the next step is to make a classic spice mix, and that's known as the Mysore masala. For that, we need some flakes of coconut. You can also take shredded coconut or grated coconut as per your convenience and choice. We need to make this nice and spicy and red in color, and for that I'm using some red chilies. To this, we need to add in some toasted coriander seeds. The predominant flavor is of course coconut, coriander and chilies. To spike it up a little, I'm adding in some black peppercorns. To give it a nice local and regional flavor, I'm adding in some curry leaves. For some tang, some tamarind. And finally, a touch of coconut oil. To bring out all the flavors and give this a nice taste, of course, some salt. Time to grind this into a smooth paste, and for that, of course, we need some water. Do not get tempted to add in a lot of water at one go. Divide that into several batches if you need so. Our spice mix for Mysore dosa is done and ready. Let's transfer this in a container. The best part about this spice mix is that this can alternately be also used as a chutney. Both the components for the Mysore dosa are done and ready. That is the batter and the spice mix. The next step, of course, is to make the dosa. For that, you need to heat a pan and add in just a touch of desi ghee. With the help of a spatula, smear this well in the entire pan. And once the pan is moderately hot, you need to lower the flame and smear the dosa batter in the pan into form and shape of a thin pancake. With this, we need to just add in a touch of ghee. At this stage, you need to smear in some desi ghee. You could also prefer some salted butter if you please. Time to smear in the Mysore spice mix. You could be as generous as you please. We need to turn the flame high and cook this at least for a minute till it's nice, crisp and golden brown in color. Once you realize that the pancake has kind of curled on the edges, you need to pick up one of the curled sides, pull it towards you, and with this, your Mysore dosa is done and ready. Let's transfer this in a serving plate. And of course, this needs to be served with a chilled chutney and a hot sambar. Similarly, let's make some more pancakes or some more Mysore dosas.
For the uninitiated, upma is a very popular breakfast dish across many parts of India. It is a dish that is cheap to make, nutritious, filling, and something that will take you through to lunch. So let's just get started. I've got a cup of semolina here, which I'm just going to dry roast. Okay, now my semolina's it's not completely brown yet, but that's not how we want it either. So this is like a lovely golden. So I'm just going to switch off the gas right now and keep it to cool. In a deep bottom pan, take some oil. You can use any oil that you like. Just let it heat up. Once the oil is hot, add a teaspoon of mustard seeds and let them crackle. To this, I'm going to add 3-4 slit green chilies. About an inch of ginger finely chopped. Some folks also like to add red chilies, dried red chilies, but I prefer the green, which is why I'm sticking to my version of the recipe. To this, I'm going to add a pinch of asafoetida powder. I've got about 2 small onions finely chopped. I'm going to add some salt to taste now. I don't want my onions to be charred or anything like that. I just want them to be cooked, that's all. So just a little bit, like as long as they're translucent, that's good enough. Okay, now to this we're going to add a pinch of turmeric, another teaspoon of chili powder. Mix it up. Now I've got with me a carrot finely chopped. I'm going to add that in. I've got about 7 to 8 French beans, again finely chopped. I've got about half a cup of fresh peas. I'm going to add that as well. Mix it with the onions. Just a little bit of water to just help cook the vegetables. And cover it up for 3 minutes. The water has dried out completely and my vegetables are also like 80% cooked, which is perfect. To this I'm going to add my dry roasted semolina. Just fold it in really nicely so that the vegetables are mixed thoroughly. Now I'm going to add some water. So the ratio to be followed for cooking the upma is 1:2. So 1 cup of semolina and 2 cups of water. So I'm going to adhere to that as well. Now to this I'm going to add a teaspoon of ghee. You can put whatever vegetables you like into this. This is what I felt like today, so this is what I've put into it. If you also feel like you don't want it with too many vegetables, you could go do that as well. Okay, now to this I'm going to add some coriander. And that's it. Breakfast is ready to be served. show you two really good variations on how to cook eggs for breakfast so that you're not usually stuck with the regular options. We're going to make a boiled egg bhurji and a Parsi specialty called sali par idu. So let's get started. I've got 4 hard-boiled eggs here, which I'm just going to slice up for our boiled egg bhurji. So first I'm going to cut it into half and then cut those halves into half. So 1 egg in 4 pieces. I'm going to start with heating up some oil. Now that the oil is hot, I'm going to add 2 small bay leaves and a teaspoon of cumin seeds. Now to this, I'm going to add 1 onion that's just been chopped up finely. Saute that till it's a bit translucent. The onions are nicely sauteed, so now I'm going to add 1 green chilli that's been chopped up finely, a teaspoon of finely chopped garlic, and another teaspoon of finely chopped ginger. Now I'm just going to cook this till the raw smell of the ginger and garlic goes away. Now I'm going to add 1 tomato that's again been chopped up finely. Stir that in. To this I'm going to add a bit of salt, a teaspoon of red chili powder, 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, a teaspoon of jeera powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of some garam masala. Just cook this mixture really well with the masalas. This masala is so beautifully cooked and it's really fragrant. So I'm going to turn off the heat now and just very gently add the eggs and coat them in this masala. Our first egg dish is absolutely ready to serve, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of coriander. It's time to start with our second dish. This is sali par idu, which is basically sali, that's this. Potato wafers that are nice and thin. If you can't find these, then just use crushed up potato wafers. That should be good too. So I'm going to start with heating up some oil in the pan. Now that the oil has heated up, I'm going to add 1/2 an onion that's been chopped up finely. I'm going to cook this till the onions are translucent. Now that the onions are translucent, I'm going to add 1 green chilli that's been chopped up finely, a teaspoon of finely chopped garlic. You can also use ginger and garlic paste, a teaspoon of finely chopped ginger, and just cook these till the raw smell goes away. Now I'm going to add 2 medium-sized tomatoes that have been chopped up again finely. Now to this, I'm going to add just a tiny pinch of raw sugar. This is about balancing flavors. You can use jaggery as well. going to add a little bit of salt. Now there's no need to add too much salt in this recipe because the sully or the potato crisps that we're using already have a lot of salt in them. So go easy on the salt. A teaspoon of red chili powder. A teaspoon of coriander powder. And a teaspoon of jeera powder. Now mix the masalas really well into the tomato mixture and let it cook. Now that this tomato mixture is cooked really well, I'm going to add the sully. We're going to use about 1 cup of sully. Just add it in batches and coat it in the tomato mixture. Now that the sully is just perfectly coated in the masala mixture, I'm just going to make 2 little indents here, just making space to add the eggs. I'm just pouring the egg right here very gently and add the second egg as well. Now just cover this pan and let the eggs cook on a low flame. Now I like to leave the yolk slightly runny, so I'm going to leave it that way till it cooks through. Let's check on the eggs. They're perfectly cooked, which means that we're ready to serve them. I'm just going to grind some pepper over the eggs. Our 2 excellent dishes are ready to eat right now.